Hey everybody, it's Dowden, and in this video we're going to be covering how we can make a Böhmer and Anjunadeep style track. It's going to be uplifting but also kind of sad sounding in that way that kind of complements each other, where you want to cry because of happiness but you also kind of want to cry because of sadness. So this is what the track sounds like. I'll let you take a listen. Alright, so we're just going to dive right into it. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe so you can get more videos like this one. Okay, so we're gonna get started, and the three main things that I want to focus on in writing and building this track is there is simple yet really nice percussion that's really crispy and really open-ended, and it carries you through the track. Not overcomplicated, but has a lot of width and space to it. The kick and bass relationship is very important because we want to have a really nice low end, of course, with almost every one of the other genres. But it's important because when we're using our bass line, it's going to complement the melodies as well. And then the third thing is the melodies are uplifting and make you feel like you want to cry, but also make you feel really happy at the same time. This is going to be a pretty uplifting version of like an uplifting take on the Anjunadeep style. Some of the stuff's a little bit heavier and darker, but this is going to be more of an uplifting one. A lot of Böhmer's tracks and Anjunadeep tracks, they use major keys, which make you they tend to make you feel happier. So first we're going to talk about the kick. I have two layers of this kick here, the low and the high. So this is what this low sounds like. And this is what the high sounds like. And I'm just doing this so that I can take the kick samples and can have a bit more control over the high end and the low end. That's what they sound like together. And then I'm going to compress them together. And I'll give you this kick as part of the project file, of course. I want no attack because I want just to really grab any of the initial transients. Just a little bit of glue compression here, just a little bit to really grab the top. So if there's any prominent frequencies or like really quick transients that are peeking through, grabbing those peaks because we're layering them, and then it helps to stay glued together. So before and after. Cool. Okay, next I'm going to do the bass. So the bass and the sub bass I'm going to make in wavetable. If you don't have wavetable, you can use something else. It's a pretty simple patch that we're going to be using. So first I will do just the bass, I guess. Just a sine wave. Super simple. What I'm going to do is, instead of writing out the melodies, because I don't remember which melodies I did initially when I wrote this song, so I've exported the MIDI of them. There is quite a few melodies that I use, and I was pretty happy with it, so I'm going to just grab those MIDI files that I'm also going to include in the Ableton project file. And they're pretty simple melodies, but there was a couple of them, so I didn't want to forget. It's right here. I'm just going to drag and drop that MIDI on there. Just ask me if I wanted to change the tempo of the track, which I do. I'll put this up to 123. Cool. So this is my bass line. The track is going to be in C major. It's a really easy scale to remember because it's all the white keys, starting from C all the way up. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. All white keys, really hard to mess it up. Cool, so we just have our sine wave. I'm going to actually pitch this down a whole octave. So 2 octaves actually. So we'll do this one as sub bass. I'm going to duplicate this one, and we're going to put this as mid bass. And now I'm going to make this a little bit more interesting. So what I'm going to do with this is actually add a lot of mid-range presence, just to make it into like more of a sawtooth wave, and definitely bring it up those 2 octaves that I dropped, at least 1 octave. Let's go with the second higher octave. I'll put a filter on there so I can take out some of the high end as well as the low end. I'll put a second octave, oscillator, sorry. Another sawtooth wave. I'm going to pitch that one down 12 semitones, so I'm going to pitch it down a whole octave. Just remove a little bit of the volume from it. Yeah, push one higher. So we want a lot of harmonic content here. We want a lot of those mid frequencies. And then let's grab a saturator just to make it a little bit warmer. There we go. There we go. Actually, I'm gonna turn them to keep that on. Actually, okay. And then I want to put the dry wet just down to maybe like 25%, and then grab an EQ and let's see what the difference the saturator is actually making with the EQ. So this is without saturation, a lot of harmonic content still, and with. Just kind of boosting the volumes most of those and adding a little, maybe adding a couple more. Let's do a harder curve. Cool, and then we're gonna add another filter on here again. So auto filter, you can do this with the EQ as well, but I like using the auto filter. Duplicate that filter, and I want to control both the low end and high end again, just to really make sure. Actually, keep it at 24. We want, for now at least, we want the bass from this one to come through. I might change it later and do a sub bass and then a mid bass of the second octave, but this is going to give us that second octave of bass. So that's a little bit too much high end for me. Cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put another track. I'm actually going to I'll put a little bit of reverb on this, but it's tricky putting reverb on bass. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to duplicate the sub bass. So I'm going to put this one to a mid bass here. This is going to be mid bass, and this is going to be, let's say, hard bass. And the mid bass is just going to be the same thing, a sine wave, but I'm going to raise it up one octave. And that's just the frequency it's going to be. You can look at the EQ. You can see that it's around 100 hertz. So we have the sub bass hitting at about 50 to 100 hertz. And then the second octave here. Then we'll add our hard bass, and we'll filter out all below 100. Could add an LFO as well, just to give it a bit of movement. Cool, and then add a bit of reverb onto there. Just a tiny bit. Another trick that we could do with this is to add some mid-side EQing. It's a little bit more of an advanced tip, but if we drag an EQ onto there and put it into mid-side mode, and take everything from the mids and the sides, and we can choose what we want in the speakers to be in the side of the mix and in the center of the mix. So we don't want anything below, say, 100 to 200 hertz in the sides of the speakers, per se. So let's just go like this, and we'll just drag that right up. Maybe we can boost a little bit in the mid here. And that should help us cancel out a little bit of the phase issues if we do, or if we were to run into them. Let's listen to all three together. Group them. Cool. We can listen with our kick. Awesome. So we have that really nice low end coming through. We have that saturation, so we're going to hear it on speakers without the subwoofers or any bass response. And then what we can do is, I know it doesn't sound like much right now. It's just a basic bass line, but let's go into, let's grab our audio from, it's kind of like a vocal. So it's a pad that I had inside of Pigments, the VST, and I just exported it so I can send it to you as well. And it sounds like this. So I have 3 different versions here, and you're just gonna hear the melody from them. They're really nice. So it's just a pad, and all I did is I put just sporadic notes in the MIDI track, and then octaves. So I would just go an octave higher. That's the lower one. I don't think I use this one. So we just have this here. Let's listen with the bass line. Right, starting to sound a little bit more melodic and start to make a little bit more sense. Let's go ahead and let's start with the Rhythmic Plucks next. So Rhythmic Plucks, we can do this with I could do it with Serum, or I could do it. Let's do it with Serum. I like using Serum, and I know a lot of people have it, so I have no problem doing that. I mean, it's just a simple pluck if you want to do it in Wavetable or something else, but I love using Serum. I'm just gonna grab one of my. I have this one here, this Melodic House and Techno pluck that I used in my last video, and I'm just going to turn the detune down a bit and close it up a bit. Next, what I'll do is I'm going to grab the MIDI information from this one as well. So drag and drop that on. So if you look at this MIDI track, very, very simple. It's just adding a bit of rhythm to the track. So let's listen. Super simple. But it does help keep the rhythm going of the track. It fills up some of the mid frequencies of the track as well. Go ahead here. I'm gonna take the white noise off this. That mid bass can definitely be turned down quite a bit, the hard bass here. Cool, and then we can put some effects on here. So let's do some delay and reverb. And go ahead and drop that on there. Because delay and reverb makes everything sound much nicer. Well, pretty much everything. Next, we can do some mid chords. So this hard bass that I have, it's not actually going to follow the bass line exactly. It's going to have some chords in it. So I'm going to drag and drop my MIDI information onto the chord. So I'm just adding from that bass line a few harmonies. So we have the C, B, I believe it goes C, E, D, C, E, D. I've added the G, the B, the A, the G. You can see them all here on these notes. So let's take a listen to just that now. And probably have to go up an octave here. There we go. That gives the song a little bit more depth in the melodic area. So let's go ahead and listen now. All right. Last we have the lead, which I'm not going to add in just quite yet. I'm going to do some of the drums first. So the drums that we want to be achieving are going to be like really, really crispy, like I mentioned earlier, like crispy and open-ended, but groovy. So I'm going to grab a drum rack and drag and drop that in somewhere. I guess I could have made this pluck right from scratch, but essentially all it is just the cutoff is being filtered by this filter, and then we have this envelope just controlling this this pluck action right here. It's essentially, it's a super, super simple pluck. I'm actually gonna turn this up a bit. Okay, and now into the drums. So first thing is first, 16th hats, shakers, super simple. Let's go hat. Try that one for now. It might not be the best hat, but we'll cycle through them actually. Just something right now to try in. I'll grab this as well. Okay, so want to be a little bit groovy, a little bit authentic, organic. So we're gonna do a little bit of swing to them, so they sound like this. I'm gonna actually change that to this hat. And I'm going to actually turn on the velocity of the very first one and then copy and paste that over to all of them. Okay, so what I'm gonna do with the other hat is kind of just add a little bit of some interesting flavor to it. So I'm gonna mute this one, or I'll just solo, I guess, this hat. And I'm going to bring this on to some strange beats here. Oops. Okay, I'll just do that and copy and paste that. I'm going to grab a delay and I'm going to throw that onto just that one hat there. And I'm going to put it to 50% dry wet, feedback pretty low. And let's put one of these so that it's 25% offset. Cool, so that adds a little bit of subconscious interest to the hearing. Throw an EQ on there and just really take out a lot of those low end. And some of the high end as well. Maybe pitch up a little bit. Cool, and now when we have our other shakers, next I'm going to add a has effect. So if you don't already have a preset saved for the has effect, it is just, actually I'll just go ahead and do it myself. So I'm going to grab a delay. Again, I'm going to throw it on to the other hat. So the first hat, that's going to be on the 16ths. And then I'm going to turn it from sync to time, and then bring this down all the way to 1 millisecond. And then change this up to maybe 10 or 7 milliseconds. What's going to happen is it's going to delay the signal slightly, and it's going to sound like it's wider. So it's like a stereo width. So now you have your feedback all the way to 0, and your dry wet all the way to 100%. That's to make it nice and wide. And let's take a listen now. Cool. Next, we'll add in a sharp hat. Like that one. So we'll call this one shakers. And let's duplicate this. And we'll call this one hat. I like the way that one sounds. I'll also keep this, actually I won't have this one with the has effect on it. I'm going to take that out and put it onto this one. And take the first delay I had off that channel. So this channel here is going to be right down the center of the mix for the most part. And then this channel is going to be the wider hat. And for this one, I want to find a really, really nice, crispy, but like sharp, but longer, kind of like that one. Maybe. That one's okay too. I'll try that one for now. Might be better to get a ride cymbal actually. And that one's gonna have the has effect on it. Cool. And then I'm going to add a reverb into here, but I'm gonna add it in as a send and return. So I'm going to open up, where are we here? Open up the chains panel here. That's going to show you the chains list, and then my return track. And then I'm going to drag and drop a reverb into that return track. And that's going to add a reverb onto the channel, but not on everything, only what you send to it from inside the drum rack. So if I wanted to put a lot of reverb on only my ride and then a little bit of reverb on my hat, I can open up the sends and returns by clicking the S and the R here and sending some information. So I'll send a little bit. I guess I gotta properly map this out. Just a little bit of reverb, or I'll duplicate this. Now I'll have a short reverb and a long reverb. Short reverb will have the short attack decay time, and I want to put that to 100% dry wet. That's important. So I want to put the dry wet to 100%, and then the long reverb I'll put to about maybe 900 milliseconds, and then I'll send to A, my first hat. So my shorter hat's going to be a shorter reverb, and my longer hat is going to be a longer reverb. Cool. Let's listen to the context of the mixed. Maybe not the best ride for that. Let's try and find a different one. Let's try this one. Maybe I'll go into the actual ride cymbal. I'm going to take out the initial hit a little bit. It's not so transient. Cool. So let's do the clap section. I have this clap here that I've chosen, this muffled clap. The thing with these tracks is they have usually like a nice tight clap, but sometimes like the Anjunadeep style is it's a little bit more muffled. It's not like a really, really prominent progressive house clap. It's sometimes a little bit more kind of like to complement the kick and the accent the kick rather than to be like a whole entity on its own. It's a little bit too much, so I'm going to go like that, and I'm going to find another clap to put in there. That's a nice one. Drag and drop that on there. I'm going to change this from F1 on the receive to E1 so that they both play at the same time. So when I press, and when I have the MIDI information here for the E1, which is here, it's going to play both. It's going to play both claps. So the nice tight clap, that muffled clap. I'm going to actually transpose this one down a few semitones. So it's not the exact same frequencies as this one. Now I have a little bit of a tail, so I'm going to take that out. and then we're going to compress and use some EQ. So let's go ahead and grab a compressor and an EQ. So I'm going to have EQ on the muffled area and the other clap. So we'll rename this other clap, let's say low, and this will be high. Or we'll change it from muffled and punch, I guess. So the muffled one, want more high end. And the punch to the low end. And let's listen together. Sounds pretty good together. And then I'll compress them. And they are pushing a little high. So I'm going to actually reduce this. So we're not clipping. And I'm going to grab an EQ and actually drop it on the entire channel. And what I'm going to do instead of compressing is add some saturation. So saturators are great for adding a bit of life to your drums. I'm going to put up about 2 decibels. Maybe 3. Okay, I did 4 decibels. Let's listen with and without. So it cranks up the energy just a little bit more. And then I'm going to compress with 0 attack, essentially, like a little attack, just so I can grab any of the peaks that are getting through. And then boost this up. Cool, and let's listen in the context of the mix. And last thing I'm going to do is actually drag and drop the has effect again. So I have it actually saved as a preset in my Ableton Live. So I'm going to drag and drop that on the muffled clap section. So where is it here? It's a little bit too obvious, so I'm going to reduce the time a little bit. There we go. So this one's still in mono, this one's stereo. Perfect. Let's listen. Okay, last but not least, we're going to do the main lead, and then kind of like an accent lead behind it. So I'm going to go into a main lead. I'm going to insert, and this one I actually did on Serum. So I have the Serum here, and this is what the patch is going to sound like. So it's right here, nice lead pluck. And all it is just I have this envelope here, I'm not even affecting this anymore, so I'll take that off. And my cutoff about halfway, and my envelope 1 is affecting the cutoff, so it's opening it up, and it's only a low pass with 12 decibels of reduction. Super, super simple, but the real magic comes from adding a nice reverb and delay. So I have Replica. You can use any delay, but this is a really nice delay that I like to use. It's by Native Instruments. Put the mix up pretty heavily and the feedback up pretty heavily. The benefit with Replica is that you can actually add a bit of modulation as well. So I'm going to add a bit of filter. So I'm going to have depth, which is essentially like the amount that it's going to filter. It's going to take off the high end using a low pass, and I'll low pass that to about 2k hertz or 2.5, and this will be the speed. So very, very slowly, I want to bring just a little bit of the filter of the delay that's signaling the delay that's going back and forth, or the delayed signals is going to have that filter kind of cutting off a little bit of the high end over and over again. It's going to make it sound a little bit more organic and interesting. Last but not least, I'm going to add the reverb, because reverb just makes it sound nice. Oops. And I'm not going to write out the melody again. I'm going to drag and drop in my MIDI track so that it's nice and easy for us to follow along to. And I like the melody that I did. And let's take a listen. I'm not going to bring it in right away. I'm going to just kind of let you listen to the track and then let you hear the melody as it comes through. It's really, really nice. And this is going to be more of like a breakdown melody. So the track's going to come through. We're going to go into this little breakdown. Actually, I don't even need these drums. And then we'll go from there. So. Oops. So this was a really easy melody to write. It's in C major, which is only the white keys, like I've mentioned. It's super easy to write in C major because of that reason. If you're not good at writing melodies and things like that, because you don't know your keyboards and your keys and your scales, start with C major, because then you can write things and you can't hit a wrong note in the major chord per se, because they're all the white keys. You can, of course, throw some things in there. You can play in a minor scale, but it's really easy to learn or play melodies along to this. So what I did is I recorded myself playing the melody, just whatever it was, and then I recorded it live, and then when I went into my quantize settings, I only put it to, I think it was 90% or maybe 92 or 3%, and that way the notes don't line up exactly on like as a quantized sound. So they're gonna have a little bit of swing to them, a little bit of more realism, and a little bit more organic sounding. The beauty to this is really, really in the delay and the reverb. Like if we take these off, really, really nice stuff. Now we're going to add in the piano part, and it's going to kind of complement the lead, and it's called Simplest Piano. And I'm going to duplicate first the lead. So I'm going to name this lead. And I'm going to duplicate this so that we also get the replica and the reverb on there. And then I'm going to rename this into piano and grab the simplest piano and throw it in there. So now we have the sample. You should have it in your Ableton Live, as long as you have, I think it comes in the standard, but it might only come with the suite. And if it does, there should be some sort of piano that you can use, or other sound that you can use that's giving you the same idea, or a piano VST. So I'm going to put my reverb up like 80 or 90%, maybe 80%. Delay can stay as it is. And then if we play it, it's going to sound really nice as piano. Right, but it's just going to follow the lead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first note of every one of these, and I'm going to get rid of everything else. So get rid of that. So the first note of every change. So the first note, first note, first note. Okay, and now when I play it, it's just gonna be those notes. I'm gonna crank the decay time. And because it has different velocities on the sounds here, it's actually giving it a bit of sounds more like you're playing it in real life, and that's because we have this we have like velocity tracking on the actual sound. So the harder the note, the harder it's going to sound like you're playing it on the piano. The more velocity you have, the harder it's going to sound on the piano, which is really cool. And then the last one I'm going to do is going to fade in the attack of this sound a little bit. And then we're going to grab it and let's drop it an octave. Throw an auto pan on there just to make it sound really, really cool. I think the last thing I might have forgot to do was to add a bit of velocity change to our shakers here to make them a little bit more interesting. So I already have the velocity changed inside here, but adding this other velocity MIDI effect, you can change the randomness a little bit. So I'm going to put randomness up to about 5 or 6, and that's going to just change a little bit of the shaker's velocity inside as well. As long as you have this volume over velocity. If you have this down to 0, it's not going to do anything to any of the velocity you have inside here. You can hear it just sounds like nothing, like no velocity change. And then the more you move this up, the more it affects it. Then with this random, it kind of moves that velocity even more. So actually, let's put up to a pretty substantial amount. Let's put it to like 20. Cool. And let's go ahead and take a listen to what we have. So far, I'm going to arrange it just a little bit more actually before we do that. Let's take a listen to how it sounds in full now. The breakdown. That is pretty much it, guys. It's pretty happy with how it turned out. It's obviously there's a lot of room to grow with this. We have the piano here. Am I happy with it? Okay, so I'm just moving that over. I'm going to duplicate this. Duplicate this and this. Add a filter. Actually, I'll just do an EQ onto the bass. I'm going to automate this frequency. And turn on my 8 here. I'm going to automate this frequency. And that's going to filter at the low end and the high end as it's kind of going into the breakdown. On the entire group, we can open this up a bit more. And my lead, I want to have the cutoff filter pretty far down. Okay, and I'm gonna actually put this piano part in over here. So the piano part is going to be like a melody that's going along with the track, and then in the breakdown, it's going to have like the expression of that melody coming through a lot more, and then it's going to drop into just the plucks coming through here, and then okay, that should be good. Let's take a listen. Okay, let's take a whole listen. Let's take a listen to the whole thing now. And there we go. That's pretty much it, guys. It's like I said, it's mostly just honestly the melodies that are just really make or break the style of music. It's just the complement of this melody and like the upliftingness of it combined with this bass line, and then these chords add that harmony to it, and it really isn't that hard to achieve as long as you can write good melodies and melodies that work well together. Okay, let's take a listen to the entire track now from the beginning. So obviously this is a condensed version of the song. We don't have the full song laid out. I didn't want to make this video too long. Give you the main ideas of the track, give you the main, the focus of the track, and the main focus is essentially the melodies. The melodies are what just really taking the song to that uplifting vibe, that Anjunadeep vibe, the Böhmer vibe. It's just those major chords, and the reason I use the C major is because it's so easy to work with. If you're not good at writing melodies, or you're not good at using your keyboard, you're not familiar with scales and things, it's just so easy just to all white keys and start with there and then transpose it how you like after if you want to change it from C major. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe so you can get more videos like this one.